They let me out of prison after doing 14 years and 4 months with $40 into a state that I had no family or friends.
Let glory shine from the ashes I rise. Every scar a story, every tear baptized. This is my freedom, this is my climb. Let glory shine, it's the power inside.
Welcome back to Let Glory Shine. I'm your host, Martha Glory, and I am so glad that you are tuning in for another episode of Let Glory Shine. Tonight, I have the honor, the privilege to interview a great friend. He's also part of my community that I'm in with you. And he's just a stand-up, amazing human being. And I'm so excited for this conversation. Before we hit record, um, he and I were just having this very beautiful conversation, and I can't wait for you guys to get to be part of it. Justin Danforth is getting ready to come on, and I can say so much about him. He's a coach. He is a survivor. He is an entrepreneur. He has multiple businesses. But most importantly, he is a man of his word. So I want to introduce to you Justin Danforth. Justin.
What's up?
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for agreeing to come on this show. And I want to jump right back into it because we were having the most beautiful conversation off screen before we and it's things that really matter. It's things that are important to our growth and our healing journeys. I want you to give just a snapshot of your trauma story, how what you experienced, very acorn version of what you experienced, and how it brought you to the work that you're doing now, and then we'll go in deeper into the conversation.
Okay, yeah. So in brief, I grew up what I would consider the typical street thug, in the streets, running rampant. I considered myself the worst of the worst, and that eventually landed me in prison. I went to jail a couple times. The first time I was ever arrested was at 11 years old. My mother took me to get my first tattoo at 12, so that gives you some kind of idea of my upbringing, right? Um, and I finally landed myself in prison by the age of 21. When I first turned 21, I was arrested and charged with first degree murder and facing a life sentence without the possibility of parole. So I was convicted of second degree, and of that sentence I was sentenced to 17 years and 9 months, and of that I served a total of 14 years and 4 months. And so what brings me into the work that I do today is throughout my incarceration, it was like the first 3 years, I still was that same typical street thug. You would have thought that facing a life sentence, my daughter was 10 months when I got locked up. She was out there being raised originally by her mother, who had, after my incarceration, soon became a heroin addict. And all of these things, you would thought that I would have got my stuff together, right? And I didn't. So eventually I started to just get tired. Not tired of living. Like I never had suicidal thoughts. I just got so tired of living the way I was living and living where I was at, because now fast forward, I'm sitting in prison and with a decade plus left to serve. And I realized, like, I can't keep living like this. Something's got to give, something's got to change. And so I just really devoted myself to personal growth and development. And I started there. And the difference I like to express or emphasize to people is that the difference between what I was doing with personal growth and development and everybody else around me, or those that I knew of, was I was implementing what I was reading and studying. Um, it wasn't just a feel good moment. It was this is what I had to do for the rest of my life. And that's where it started.
I know your whole story, but every time that I get to hear glimpses of it, like I'm just, how do you go from serving 14 years and 4 months in prison to coming out and being able to navigate the world that you've been navigating this past I don't know how long you've been out, but this past years, right? I know how hard it was for me to come from the cult and try to navigate a world that I'd been isolated from that I knew nothing about. So I have to surmise that you probably face the same thing when you've been isolated from something for so long. How do you integrate?
Great question. So there's a few things for me. I realized as I sat in there, there were guys that I knew personally, like we're in close quarters, right? So you get to know people um week after week, month after month, year after year. And these guys were doing 8, 10, 15 years. They would get released. And you're so happy for them. Like you see it, it's like because one day I'm gonna go home. And then they come back within 12 months. And it was really mind-boggling for me. I just couldn't understand. I was like, and I would sit and like so-called interview them. I would question them like, man, like, how did you get back here? Like, what happened? And of course, everybody had, because prior to them getting released, of course, they had this grand plan. They were going to do the right thing and they were going to do all of this stuff, right? And so, and you know the stories, but I said, either you're hard-headed or you like it here. Nobody likes it here. So I couldn't figure out what was going on. And the more and more I sat with these individuals and I analyzed and I observed, because it being in a confinement like that, it's like being in a fish tank. All you can do is just go back, swim back and forth all day long, and you pass by another fish, you see them, so it's like it's just this all day. Somebody drops in some sprinkles of food, you get fed, and then you do the same thing. You just swimming back. So I realized the more and more these individuals kept coming back, as we know the recidivism rate is ridiculous, right? I realized what it was, for at least from my perspective, my observance, and through questioning them, it was they had a void they were trying to fill. And I always called it was an unfulfilled, they were unfulfilled street dreams, because we come from the streets, most of us, and those that I associated with back then come from the streets. So it was always they would get out and they needed that, they needed that one more package, as we call it, right? Or high or drink, whatever it was that they were trying to fill that void with. It could have been a baby mother. A lot of times might not be surprised, but a lot of people were in jail because of their spouse or whoever, right? Well, whatever it was, they were going back to that same thing. And so I realized for me, I had seen and done it all. Like I said, I was the worst of the worst when it came to that street life. Seen and done it all. So for me, my unfulfilled void was a domestic lifestyle. I realized like I was yearning to do, like, prior to going to prison, I never woke up next to the same woman every day. I didn't cut grass or take out the trash or pay bills and things like that, right? Everything was in my mom's name. I would just drop her a wad of cash, pay what needs to be paid, and be out. Like that was the lifestyle. So I never knew what a domestic lifestyle was. I had a daughter being raised. Now at this time, my mom's raising my daughter while I'm locked up. And I'm like, how do what do I gotta do to be the individual I need to be for the rest of society, including my daughter? And so I started reading all of Nicholas Sparks' books and watching the movies, right? Yeah, I'm a big fan. And I'm still a hopeless romantic, but that's another topic for another day. But I started learning how to be a, a citizen of society, like a man, a husband, a father, a grandson, a brother, like a son of my mother, like how to be better by watching sitcoms. Because you notice most sitcoms, at least the ones I used to watch, always had a father figure in the household, right? And they did they did the things like to me, all of that, I didn't have all of that growing up. So it was like all of that was all new, and it was like that's what I want. And so that's what my vision, my avatar or Frankenstein I was building in my head every day at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's what I start with. Who does who does Justin, upon release, What does he do? What does he say? Who does he hang around? What does he wear? What kind of house does he live in? What kind of car does he drive? What kind of people respect him? What kind of circles does he run in now? Because it was no longer the streets. None of that. That didn't have anything else to offer me. But this whole domestic lifestyle, this world of entrepreneurialism, like there was this whole other world in my mind that existed, and that's where I belonged. And so everything, my whole thought process, my conversations, everything was geared towards that. So when I came out, that's exactly what I did. I came home with all of that. I was already a success before I ever got released, right? I didn't wait to get released. I was building this person long before I ever got released. So when I came home, it was just a matter of implementing the things that now I have access to, being resourceful because I didn't have many resources. They let me out of prison after doing 14 years and 4 months with $40 into a state that I had no family or friends. But I had already envisioned everything day after day for so long. Like to this day, my wife will tell you, I don't know how somebody can drive as good as you drive with being gone for so long. Like I could still drive like I never missed a beat. Like I adapt very well to technology. There's people out here that ask me questions on how to use the compute, like things with the computer and stuff like that. I'm like, why do I gotta tell you this? Like I'm the last person that should know how to do this stuff, right? And I don't say that to as a flex or to brag. It's just I just I delve all the way into everything I knew that was necessary to get me to where I wanted to be, where I seen myself at, and it took discipline, simple and plain. Discipline, not motivation, not inspiration. It took discipline. So no matter how I feel, this is what I have to do. No matter if I feel sick, if I feel tired, if I feel hurt, this is what I have to do. And that's how I acclimated so well.
Um, you really hit me hard with the void was a domesticated lifestyle because I I think that was one of the biggest downfalls for me. I never envisioned myself outside of the cult. And so when I finally got the courage to escape, got the, like, and, God rolled the red carpet out and created the miracle that helped me to escape. Then what? I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to be. I wasn't prepared for any lifestyle outside of the cult because I never envisioned it.
Hmm.
Hearing you say that, I was like, I never envisioned myself. Like, I never thought about a job or friends or family or get-togethers or money. Like, I didn't think about any of those things. And I think looking back, had I prepared more, right, that things could have turned out differently. Obviously, that wasn't my road. I had to learn it the hard way. School of hard knocks, baby. But, but I've come full circle in the last 20 years. That's amazing. That's amazing. And building this person long before you're released. Again, the same thing. I think that is something that us as a society don't look at who we want to become. We are always in this place of almost like fight or flight, right? Well, I don't like this, so I'm going to try this. I don't know what that person's doing. Let's try that, right? Nobody ever sits with themselves and says, like, who do I want to create? Because everything's already inside of me, but I have to figure out how to tap into it. I have to claim it. I have to define it. I have to become it, right? Like nobody asks those questions. So I know you were reading books and things like that, but how did you know how to do that? There's no like guide to building justice.
Thank you for watching Prospera TV Network. We hope you're enjoying the show. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
know how to do that. There's no like guide to building Justin.
Yeah, so that's a great question. For me, it was it was looking at so it was I like to shorten it, and I actually got this from as far as a phrase from one of my mentors, but it's I figured out I needed to acquire what I admire. So I admired that domestic lifestyle, that man, right? The one who is built, who is strong, who is responsible, like and those qualities and characteristics I had in my life growing up from my father. Now my father is a man's man. When I say that, I have to define that nowadays, right? But a man's man, like he went to work, he worked with his hands, he did construction. He went to work every day. He came home, dinner was ready, and he paid the bills, and that was it, right? So I had to acquire what I admire, but what my dad couldn't teach me and become the man I always needed in my life. So because my dad wasn't the man I always needed in my life, see, he taught me those aspects was just work hard, right? But what he couldn't teach me was how to run a successful business. He always had his own construction business, but we were always so poor and broke. He barely could afford food on the table. There were times we didn't have lights on, we didn't have water. Like my sister and I always got sitting in my grandparents' house or my aunt's house. We always got moved around because we didn't have no money. But he always had his own business. So it's like these are the things I figured I needed to become the man I always needed in my life so that I can be the man those around me need in their life. Um, and so to answer your question, it was just this is what I admire. How do I acquire that?
So that leads nicely into what you're doing now as a coach. Can you tell us? I get so tickled watching you on social media and your success stories and people just really understanding what they need from themselves because of you coaching them. So tell me a little bit about what you do and your audience and
Yeah, so I typically help men build their identity of who they want to be or become, right? Which is what we were just talking about. By taking them through what I use, like we just talked about, to build my identity, right? And it's the discipline aspect. Um, no, so when I say build their identity, a lot of us float through life settling or compromising and not setting the standard that we internally we want, but externally it's like we just don't we just settle and we get complacent. And then like you said earlier, was that lightning? I seen it. So everybody, if we get cut off, you notice a storm over at Martha's house.
yeah.
um so internally we know what we want, and that's what it was. I knew what I wanted. Now externally we'll become complacent or settle, or we want it overnight and we don't want to take the time and establish or put the work in that it takes to get what we want, right? And so what I do now is I help. It started out like men, right? Helping men build their identity, set the standard, and live up to it. And but of course, as you know, like there's a lot of women in my program, a lot of spouses join the program together, husband and wives, etc. But because it applies to them too, it's not a sexist or whatnot, but thing where they don't need women don't need to establish their identity too, right? Um, so and I do that by helping them. It's not what I want for you or what I do for me is gonna work for you. It's we're gonna sit down and establish what is it you want, what is the vision you have for you, and here's what we need to put in place. Because everything is based off of our habits, the things that we do habitually. All of us are a habitual construct, right? Whatever we do regularly, habitually, is who we are. And so let's build the identity by changing the habits. And that's it. And the identity is for me, um, I remember when I first quit smoking cigarettes years ago and was working out. Um, I was reffing intramural basketball games in prison. I was a referee, and it got really, really stressful because again, this is prison. These are convicted killers, rapists, like all of the worst you can think of. And I'm in the middle. If I make a call on this team, I just piss this team off. If I call for this team, I just piss this team off. And I gotta live in this environment, pissing somebody off. So my call, I had to be firm and stand on whatever call I make. If I call a foul, it's a foul. And but it was stressful because like, oh my God, every day you wake up thinking I'm gonna either kill or be killed. That's it. So during halftime one night, um, I bought a pack of cigarettes from commissary. Back then, you could still buy cigarettes, you could still smoke in the dorms and things like that. I had already quit smoking for 6 months, and I'll try to make this quick. I bought a pack of cigarettes, and during halftime, I stood outside of the gym and I smoked 3 cigarettes. I went back there, and we finished it. They finished the game. I finished reffing the game, went about my business. The next day, I was in the gym and I was doing arms. I'm curling. And one of the other gym staff that worked in there with me, we had the gym to ourselves before they called the dorms by dorm to have their recreation time. So I told his it was Diesel. I said Diesel, there's a whole deck of Newports, meaning a whole pack of Newports in that desk drawer. He was over there sitting at the little desk that we have for us as gym staff, right? I said, they're yours. He opens the door. He's like, there's a whole pack. You sure? Now you got to think in prison, a pack of cigarettes is valuable. Like that's money. Yeah, that's that's
Yeah.
that's currency. So he was like, it's a whole pack. I was like, yeah. I said, man, I don't smoke cigarettes. I said, this is what I do. And I just started curling. And so when I say identity, it's what is it you do and what is it you don't do? No different than I like to, I often refer to because people it wakes them up when I say this. But if I told you, Martha, do you smoke crack? No. So I can't, your identity is not that of a crackhead,
Right.
nor should it be anything that you don't want it to be because you don't stand for it.
Right.
So are you a lazy person who sleeps in every day? If you don't want that for yourself, then you don't sleep in every day. And so it's like, so it don't matter how much you actually weigh. If you don't want to be have the identity of a fat, overweight, lazy individual, then you don't do that of a fat, overweight, lazy individual. Whether you're losing weight or not, you do what you become the identity of the person that you really want. And as a result, I guarantee if you stuck to it, you'll lose weight. And you've lost, I know your story. Like you've lost a mass amount of weight. So you know what I'm saying. So there's really no excuse. But so that's what I did. I know I got long with it. I'm sorry.
No,
Um,
it was
but
all good stuff.
so that's what I do is I help people establish that their identity and set the standard of who they truly want to become because we were created for better. We were created for better and then what we're just laying down and settling for.
Yes. I want to share a quick story with the audience. Last year, you and I went on a cruise together, and that we went with our group, and we both spoke. And after that cruise, on that cruise, you and I had this conversation, and I've never shared this with you, but I'm sharing it with you now. I was convicted by something that you said, and it wasn't at me. It was about whatever we were talking about. But I was so convicted that I started praying about it because I am a person that needs 8 hours of sleep. I need my sleep. I don't function well without sleep. I just, and I had been so convicted that Justin gets up at 3 o'clock, regardless if he goes to bed at 2 o'clock. Like, I was just so convicted. And I was like, if he can run off of 1 hour of sleep for a day, like, what am I complaining about, right? Because I kept moving my wake up. Like, I don't snooze or anything like that. I wake up when my alarm goes off. But I kept moving it because I was like, I need my 8 hours. And I was working late. There was always things coming up, right? And I was going to bed later. And I was convicted that day. I was like, no, this Martha that I have become gets up at 5 o'clock, regardless. And she gets up at 5 o'clock and she exercise. She first does her gratitude, then she exercises, whether that's walking, whether that's yoga, whether that's whatever. I exercise. And then after that, she takes a shower. Like, I got so specific about who I was. And you know my healing journey. I've been doing a lot of healing for a long time, for 14 years. But there was something that clicked it all those pieces together, because I was no longer creating Martha. I was living as her.
Yeah.
And
Is it?
that was such a powerful, and I have carried that through. That was October of last year. So it's 9 months later, and I wake up at 5 o'clock every single morning. I do my gratitude, I do my prayers, I get up, I exercise, like, and I like how it makes me feel. I have more energy through the
Yeah.
day. What, even if I didn't sleep 8 hours, right? Like, I have more energy through the day. I have more focus because I'm doing what I need to do and what feeds Martha. And so I just wanted to share that because that changed my life. So thank you.
Good, good.
Could
Thank
talk to you
you.
another 30 minutes, but the show ends and that would not be great. So I always ask the same question of all of my guests, and that question is, what does it mean for Justin to let his glory,
Say it again. What does it mean for Justin? What?
glory shine?
Mm, that's a very good question. So for me, to let my glory shine is would just mean that I don't I don't break character, and that I continue the rest of my life living by example for anybody I come across, man, woman, child, whoever, to just be the example for the rest of the world for the rest of my life.
I love that. When you know the truth, you found the truth, you have to live the truth, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Justin, so much for being on the show. This has been so much fun. And like I said, I could talk to you another hours, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. I look forward to seeing you same station, same time next week. And I love you. Have a great night. Let glory shine.
Let glory shine. From the ashes I rise. Every scar a story, every tear baptized. This is my freedom, this is my climb. Let glory shine, it's the power inside. This is your prosperity era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine. Welcome to your moment, Prospera, it's time. We hope you enjoyed today's show on Prospera TV Network. Make it a point to visit us on YouTube and catch all your favorite shows anytime you want. Interested in hosting a show of your own? Or advertising your business on our network? Contact Elena Rodriguez.